So, with all those caveats out the way, here's the question that will make the thumbnail of this podcast. How stupid is the average person?
Well, we talked about this last time, and I don't really want to insult the average person, but of course, compared to these intellectuals that we surround ourselves with, then the average person is quite stupid, right? They don't really read much of anything serious, uh, nonfiction. They when they read nonfiction, it's kind of very simplified pop sci stuff. Probably mostly wrong. It may be better not reading it, uh, depending
Oh,
on
I'm
what you're
glad.
reading,
Well,
right?
eat your heart out.
Yeah, Gladwell. Like you would be better off. You would is a negative knowledge person. Right? It's spreading, like because he's always citing these unreplicable
Yeah,
counterintuitive studies. Well, these are the ones that don't replicate at all, right? So you should in fact not read that stuff. You should just read like Stuart Ritchie's intelligence
yeah,
introduction, something like that.
yeah.
That's actually very good. Ian
Yeah,
Deary
very
also
good
has a
book.
good one. Um, so there, it is possible to write accurate pop sci. That is not totally difficult, and
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Not
this is not the pop
sensationalist.
sci that it's not the pop sci that most people like. So that's not what they
Yeah.
read, and that's just how it is. And in terms of what the average person can do, right? You can take these like the PISA and the what is it, the Pi, the PA, what is it, PIAAC, these kind of tests, and they give you kind of these like test items, like yeah, the average person in Western countries can solve this kind of test. Like they cannot consistently accurately calculate the price of like carpet for their living room, giving a measurements of the room. Like okay, maybe they could do this when they were in ninth grade and they were practicing this kind of math problem, but like 20 years later, like how often do people practice this kind of problem, right? You have to measure all the rooms, and then you have to use all the calculate all the areas, and then multiply the area by the price per
Hmm.
square meter, or whatever,
And
something like this.
that's the top question on that test, right?
Yeah, that's the top one on the whatever. That I think, what is it, the OECD skills test or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
something
most
like that.
people cannot do that anymore. I mean, maybe they could in school, but nowadays you don't really need to, because humans are kind of they practice what's called bounded rationality, and so of course, if they were actually in need of the skill of being able to compute the price of carpets in their rooms, I'm sure the average person could learn to do this accurately. Nevertheless, since skills you don't use, they just perish over time, you forget them, and you don't really need to be able to have this skill. Why would people practice this skill? That's why they can't do it. If humans normal job depended on them being able to do this, I'm sure most adults could do this sort of thing, right? They don't have any interest in doing it, and it's not useful for them. And if you actually go and buy carpet, or a carpet for your room, you just kind of make a too high estimate, and you cut the remaining part off. This is a lot cheaper and smarter solution than spending a lot of
Hmm.
time practicing your math all the time, right? This is an
Hmm.
irrational solution. So given the constraints of human math ability, people are actually rational in the sense that they just either outsource it, or they just buy slightly too much and they reuse the late parts for like some other parts of the house, right?
Hmm.
So in that sense, I think humans they're kind of rational given the limitations they have. So they're maybe slightly more rational than they're smart, if you were to accept that answer.
So that maybe we should talk about some of the other questions on that survey, because some of them are just remarkable, right? People, something like half of people can't find you give them their payslip and they can't find where it says like yearly pay to date, and it's literally just like it's a column, right, and a row, and you've just got to find the information. I mean, I asked you this last time. Do you buy that as a correct estimate of how stupid people are?
Yeah, but some of the ones you're referring to these are from the National Adult Literacy
Hmm.
Study, I think. So
Yes, yeah,
that's a study
the one
of
that
like
got Pritzker
16 year
votes.
olds to 80-year-olds or something like this.
Yeah.
And their example items are a bit tricky to interpret, right? Because when they give an example item and say only some proportion of the population can solve this, what they really mean is that items of this difficulty can be solved at least 80% of the time correctly by a person of a certain skill level. They don't tell you which proportion of people get this right on average, right? They don't actually supply that, the pass rate. In psychometrics, we call this the pass rate. The proportion of people who get this item right. They don't give you that. I had to estimate it. I don't know if you read my blog post, but I had to do some like weird
Hmm.
tricks to try to estimate this value, and I'm not exactly sure I
Yeah.
did it right. So maybe I'm still slightly off. Um, Nevertheless, yeah, I mean, there's a reason like people love like Google Maps and stuff. One of the items is about like reading a bus table. Yeah, a
Hmm.
lot of people cannot read a bus table, and that's why people are very happy when they put these like electronic things, that shows
Hmm.
5 minutes until bus number whatever comes. Like, people are
Right.
so happy
Yeah.
they don't want to stand there trying to interpret this columns and
Yeah.
rows and the weekdays and is it going this direction or the other direction, right? I mean, it's kind of difficult to look up this information, but it is the easiest way to have this. And I'm sure, as I said before, if people's jobs depended on them figuring out how to read the bus table, I'm sure they could learn to read the fucking bus table. But as a matter of fact, people who take the bus often, they can definitely read the bus table. People who take the bus once in a while, where they've kind of forgotten how to read the bus table, and maybe they will probably fail if they try, give it a go. And in that sense, they're not so intelligent that they can read the bus table. But it's somewhat unfamiliar for them. And if they actually needed to do this regularly, I'm sure they could learn to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
But now we don't need to because we have invented these other things that make it easy, like these small screens that show the bus and like Google
So,
Apps and these other
do you
apps.
think do you think these tests are telling us anything?
Well, I mean,